Today we are visiting Savannah, Georgia, which is in Chatham County, and it is March 16th, 2016.
We're here in Savannah. We're gonna Forsyth Park and see some historical buildings and have some fun for the day.
After spending just one day in Savannah, Georgia, I can honestly say this city spoke to my soul and begged me to come back here and live forever. Honestly, I think I could easily live here for the rest of my life and be entirely happy, which says a lot because there are very few places I admit I would like to stay forever. Mostly, every place that we visit has its ups and downs, and I'm not ready to move there, but Savannah is a place that I could stay, that I would stay. Savannah is the oldest city in Georgia, and it is the county seat of Chatham County. It was established in 1733 on the Savannah River. The city became the British colonial capital of the province of Georgia, and later the first state capital of the state of Georgia. Savannah was a strategic port city during the American Revolutionary War and the American Civil Wars. Today, Savannah is an industrial center and an important Atlantic seaport. Each year, Savannah attracts millions of visitors to its cobblestone streets, parks, and notable historic buildings, the Hoffmeisters included. We knew when we arrived we had two primary sites on our must-see list, Forsyth Park and Bay Street, which is also known as the Savannah River Walk. In addition, we needed to find a really epic place to eat because, as you know, we are eating our way from the west to east coast and back again. First, let's talk about Forsyth Park and the historic houses. We went to the park first since it was relatively early in the day and we were hoping to find some decent parking for our beast of a truck. That thing is impossible to park because it's enormous, and most historic cities here on the East Coast aren't used to accommodating big dually pickup trucks on their old city streets. Luckily, within 5 minutes, we found a spot large enough to park our truck. It was an actual miracle. We plugged the parking meter, maxing it out with plenty of quarters. We wanted as much time as possible to see the city. I think our luck at finding a parking spot had to do with the fact that we visited in the middle of the week instead of on the weekend, which, avoiding the large groups of tourists, is our favorite way to visit local attractions, especially these big ones. We're not real big on a lot of people. One of the best parts about Forsyth Park is that it is lined with streets and streets of historic homes all around and near the park, blocks and blocks of them. I adore old houses, and if I could convince my 3 Hoffmeister men, I would wander the streets day in and day out looking at them. Unfortunately, these guys are ready to move on from the houses within an hour, if I can even get that long. My favorite house on the entire walk through historic Savannah was this beauty. Tell me that isn't one of the most beautiful homes you have ever seen. Anybody want to buy it for me? I know it's not for sale and it's probably been in the same family for nearly 300 years, but I can wish and hope and dream and all that good stuff. Besides this delightful home, there were so many other beautiful homes. Forsyth Park is the largest park in the historic district of Savannah, Georgia. The park covers 30 acres of land and is the hub of social interaction. Concerts, recreation sports, people watching, which is one of my favorite things, sunbathing, one of my least favorite things, reading and relaxing. All these things can go on simultaneously at Forsyth Park, depending on where you are in the park and when it is. We know this because we saw it all on our one-day visit. Forsyth Park was laid out in the 1840s. William Hodgson donated the land for the original space. In 1851, John Forsyth, the 33rd governor of Georgia, donated an additional 20 acres, bringing the total size of Forsyth Park to its present size. The park was named after him, and it remains its name to this day. On Saturdays, there's a great farmers market that takes place in the park. We were not here for that, but we heard all about it. We spent a couple of hours walking around the park, visiting the gardens and looking at the statues and the fountains. perhaps the most well-known feature of Forsyth Park is the large fountain that sits on the north end of the park. The fountain was built in 1858. It resembles a few other fountains found around the world, including fountains found in Paris and Peru. Every year at St. Patrick's Day, the city of Savannah dyes the water in the fountain green. We just so happen to be here at St. Patrick's Day. The ceremony, when the water is dyed, is a popular event attended by hundreds, sometimes thousands, of local Savannahans. We visited the day before St. Patrick's Day and had the pleasure of seeing all the fountains in Savannah dyed green, but we did not see the actual ceremony. The boys thought that it was great fun.
Are you guys having fun?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah? What's with the water? Why is it green?
Because it's St. Patrick's Day.
Oh,
Yep.
cool.
A few days away.
Here we are in a little garden. It's like epic park. Totally cool. Check out the Spanish moss and just the whole feel of it. Just a gorgeous park. We're totally enjoying it.
I loved walking up and down the gorgeous walkways with my handsome husband and his two minis. It reminded me of what the parks may have looked like during the Regency era England, when ladies and gentlemen would go walking. And if I lived near the parks like this, I would go walking every single day. So let's now go to Bay Street and the River Walk. So after we walked around Forsyth Park, we decided to leave the truck where it was, since we had this great parking spot, and we walked the mile and a little bit to Bay Street where the Savannah River Walk access was. We figured there was no way we would get lucky enough to find as perfect of a parking spot further into the city and later in the day. The closer we got to the river, the happier we were that we left the truck because there was no parking, especially for a huge beast like ours. We got to see more beautiful homes, squares, and monuments all along the walk down to the river.
The shadow shines on whichever hour it is.
So what time is it?
It's too dark.
Too dark. Can't tell. Oh, man.
I'm holding a rose in one of these images, and it's made out of palm leaves. There were men and women sitting in the parks making and selling these, as well as other items like baskets and mats. And as tourists, we're prime, unsuspecting targets for every single vendor. Maybe I should say we're suspecting. We've been around the U.S. a few times, and you really can't trick us into buying anything. We buy if we want to, and this time we wanted to. The boys bought me this pretty rose because they said I am their pretty mama. The kids thought that this red telephone booth was awesome and had to have a picture with it in case it was the portal to the Ministry of Magic. And what Hoffmeister can pass a cannon without taking a picture? Certainly not these Hoffmeisters. There's actually about 25 pictures of cannons taken in less than a block that are now stored on my hard drive. We made it down to the river and began walking along the tourist trap walk, Bay Street. I love places like this. This is why we like to travel, or why I like to travel. We were looking for a place to eat. There were tons of little eateries, but most were playing loud and rather annoying music or did not look like an environment we wanted to take the kids, especially as it was near St. Patrick's Day. So you can imagine there was a lot of drinking going on. As we were walking down the street, a man reached out and handed us a menu for his restaurant. We accepted it and glanced at it as we kept walking and then proceeded to kind of throw it away a few buildings later. But we went back because after walking another quarter mile, we determined his restaurant was indeed the best on the strip. And boy, were we glad we returned because he guided us to this amazing restaurant up on the fourth floor of this row of shops. We took the elevator up and were instantly charmed by what we found. We love finding little hidden gems that are these well-beloved restaurants. So this place was called Vic's on the River Restaurant and Bar. And it was just such as one of those gems. The restaurant had some outside seating and beautiful window seats overlooking the river. We opted for the seats near the windows where we could see the river below and watch the river boats coming in and out. We loved it. And this was our view from the windows. It just doesn't get much better than being able to see the river boats. Our server, Matt, started by bringing us our water in goblets, and the kids thought they were fancy. He also brought us some home-style biscuits with honey butter. And do you know how much I love honey butter? Yeah, like a lot. We started our meal with fried green tomatoes over grits with a tomato chutney sauce. The kids didn't squeak at all about eating fried green tomatoes when this gorgeous appetizer came out. It was fantastic. Let me say that again. Like fantastic, delicious on so many levels. Oh, so yummy in my tummy. I needed these tasty morsels made for me every day. I think I like them even more than crab cakes, which we just had in Baltimore, and that's saying a lot. Then it was time for our main course. Rhett had a grilled chicken and bacon burger with blue cheese and collard greens. I had fish tacos because, they're my favorite. Aldrich had fried shrimp and fries, and Dars had chicken tenders with garlic mashed potatoes. The traditional kids' meals. The food was perfectly prepared and had amazing flavor. And we wrapped up our lunch with a trio of sorbets, a pear, blueberry, and lemon. They tasted like heaven, like absolute heaven. From the top of the restaurant, we noticed the USCG tall ship, the Cutter Eagle. We decided that after we finished our meal that we would go down to the boardwalk and walk past the ship. Did you know that this ship used to be owned by Hitler's German Navy? I love learning little facts like this. The USCG Tall Ship Eagle was built at the Blumenbach shipyard in Hamburg, Germany in 1936 and commissioned as the horse vessel Eagle. Eagle is one of the 3 sail training ships operated by the pre-World War II German Navy. Now, at the close of the war, the U.S. took the ship as a war reparation. They recommissioned it as the USCG Cutter Eagle and sailed it to New London, Connecticut, which has been its home port ever since. The USCG Eagle is a 295-foot bark used as a training cutter for future officers of the U.S. Coast Guard. She is one of 2 active commissioned sailing vessels along with the USS Constitution in American military service. She is the 7th Coast Guard cutter to bear the name in a line dating back to 1792, including the revenue cutter Eagle, which was famously fought the British man-of-war dispatched during the War of 1812. Now, don't you just think that the American flag blowing in the Savannah breeze is the most beautiful sight you've ever seen? I sure do. And I can just say, I love my country. Not only did we see the tall ship, but we also saw the Bay Street riverboat with more of a close-up than we had from the restaurant window. Well, thanks for joining us on our tour of Savannah in Chatham County, Georgia. We went on this trip in 2016, and it was fantastic.